What's up, y'all? Okay, so I just burned up 35 minutes just like that with that last video. So I had to take a breather, drink some water. I there is something I want to talk about, and it's not related to the other two subjects, but it is connected to another video that I've done. I just can't remember which one. Um, we're talking about acquiring wealth, and that is a subject that I talk to my friends about a lot. Now, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm wealthy because I'm not, but um, if you see my bank account, you might think I'm wealthy. Um, and I don't live like it. I don't show it. You know, if you knew how I was living, you would think, damn, this is a procast motherfucker on the internet telling motherfuckers what to do. But actually, um, I went to extremes to acquire what I have right now. And the reason for that is because I am self-financing my retirement. I spent 14 years in the military, did not finish my 20. I've been self-employed all my life. And so I had to save money on my own. I didn't use the traditional 401k. I did have a 401k for a short time, but I didn't use the traditional 401k, IRA. I didn't do all that stuff. I just did it the old school way, which was to buy land and save money. So, uh, uh, but there is another way. And I'm not saying not as an alternative way, but an additional way, because this has to be part of your financial plan. When someone asks, "What is the secret to wealth?" and everybody's got um, these complex answers for it. The basic formula for um, for wealth is it's it's hard work. This is a basic formula, and some people would call this maybe God's formula. You know what I mean? I know y'all ain't religious. Just hear me out. God's formula is hard work, wisdom, and charity. And that sounds very idealistic. Hard work, that's pretty self explanatory, right? Get out there, you work hard, you work two jobs if you have to, do a lot of overtime, take care of the jobs that you have by treating your employer well. When I say treating your employer well, meaning you give them your best. You show up on time, you do your job, you don't cut corners, you do exactly what you were paid to do, maybe a little bit more, right? And why do more? Well, let me throw this in there real quick. In order to ensure job security, you give your employer more than he paid for. And, over the years, I've heard a lot of people say, well, you ain't got to do all that, man, because they ain't paying you for that. Well, there is a motivation to giving more. The motivation is to build rapport with your boss and to build trust with your boss, to build reliance with your boss. You want that boss to value you. You want your job to value you. Now, I know that some of y'all are going to say the workplace does not value you. Trust me, brothers, that's rhetoric. They do value you. Now, do they appreciate you? That's different, right? They can value you and not appreciate you. Okay, so that's a whole different conversation. But I say value you because this is what I mean. When it comes down to cutting corners, and I've been in this situation as a manager, as an executive, where we needed to save money and I have to let some people go, I have gone to battle, okay, both for employees and against employees. When you are valued, and you guys don't know this, many of you don't know this, behind closed doors, there are people that you think don't even like you that are fighting for your job. I had a dude I thought was a racist that behind closed doors, he was fighting to give me money, to give me more money because he heard through the grapevine I was looking for another job. This is a dude I thought was racist. Okay. Did he like me? Probably not. I'm not very friendly to white folks when I'm on the job, especially when they talk to me a certain way. I don't take kindly to that shit. I'm from a city where there's a lot of racism. Okay. And I'm very sensitive about racism. However, sometimes that can make me unreasonably unreasonable. It'll make me unusually unreasonable to work with. But they still saw value. And the boss that I had, and he wasn't racist. I just sometimes people can be ignorant of race-related stuff and not be racist. But he valued me enough to get me a very decent raise that I didn't even ask for. You know what I mean? This was my very last job that I had before I went full-time self-employed. People will they'll go to bat for you when you build value, and that's why I say go above and beyond. Now, going back to what I was saying, you go above and beyond to build value with your employer, to build reliance on your employer. I had a client, Mr. Vendetti. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go and give his full name. Who had a manager under him who had committed, in my opinion, sexual harassment. Mr. V relied on this guy to do his job because it made Mr. V's job easier. He did his job so well. Almost every area of his job duties, he performed at a very high level. His problem was him and the ladies, you know what I'm saying? And when I was going to kick this dude in the ass and get him out of there, Mr. V went to battle. And Mr. V was a guy that I was very friendly with. And he even went down to threatening our relationship, our friendship over this guy. And I realized what was happening with Mr. V. Mr. V was close to retirement. He wanted to get one more promotion before he retired. And he needed this guy. I'm going to call him AB. He needed this guy, AB, to promote his own career one more notch before he got out of there. And what ended up happening was he did get the promotion, he retired, and then we fired his boy. Okay? I cannot allow a dude sexual harass employees and get away with it. But, you know, he fought it off hard enough because AB did his job so well. And AB was not he was ethical in many ways. And like I said, except when it came to the women. And that being said, that you create value and with your employer by being somebody that they just cannot afford to get rid of you. Even if they didn't like you, right? Which was in my case. When my boss didn't like me, he needed me. You see what I'm saying? And so when you create that kind of value, you make yourself valuable, you're now marketable. And so you do that by protecting your reputation, by working hard enough, keeping a high level of integrity, a great work ethic, and protecting all the relationships that you've got around you, whether they're your superiors, your subordinates, your colleagues, your coworkers. You know, you want enough people speaking highly of you, thinking highly of you, that it opens doors. And they say don't burn bridges, and that is a very, very true statement. Do not burn bridges. Too many of us do burn bridges, and we can't understand why we can't get anywhere in our fields. Okay. Anyway, so the keys, God's keys to wealth, is work, wisdom, and charity. So work, this is what we were just talking about. Wisdom. Wisdom is knowing how to manage the money that you have, knowing how to manage your career, knowing how to find other sources of wealth, right? If there's a way for me to make $100 an hour, and the option is $50 an hour, I need to stick with that $100 an hour unless there's another benefit in working for $50 an hour. And you say to yourself, why would I want to make 50 instead of making 100? Maybe at 100 you don't have stability there. Maybe you don't have longevity, but at 50 you have the ability to find more sources of income. You have more job security there. You understand? So you have to make smart choices, and the smart choices aren't always who's paying you more. And tell me, guys, those of you who hire, if you've ever experienced this, where you interview people and you're trying to tell them about the job, and I keep saying, how much does it pay? How much does it pay? How much does it pay? That, my brothers and sisters, shows a severe lack of wisdom, because at that point, the interview's over. I'm going to go through a couple more formalities, and I'm going to tell them, don't call us, we'll call you. And I'll never call that person again. I don't need an employee who's only focused on how much money am I going to make. You understand? I need someone who wants to bring value to the workplace. Now, good question. How do you bring value to the workplace? You bring value to the workplace, like I said earlier, through your reputation, through your knowledge, through your work ethic. One of the ways that you bring value to the workplace is you find out, what does the workplace need? A lot of people think it's just another degree, right? I got a cousin right now in Washington, D.C., school teacher, got a bachelor's degree, and everybody around him is telling him, if you get a master's, I can get you another $10,000. And he's like, okay, so I'm going to take out $40,000, $50,000 in loans for a $10,000 raise, which seems like it would make sense. But do you know how many years you got to put in the bank just to make the money back? And it's not even a guarantee that they're going to give you the $10,000. You see what I'm saying? So what my cousin had done is build his value through other things. So he started a tutoring program, and we fused it with an after-school program, and he offered it for free. Now these schools that he works for is able to advertise that we have martial arts, we have tutoring. Look at these kids. Look how much progress they've made since we started this program, and he's not charging a dime for it. What that did was that gave him negotiating power. And now with every job, and I'm telling you, man, I mean, hey, Sharif, if you're watching this video, brother, make a comment so you know what I'm talking about. Oh, you might not want to do that, huh? Okay, never mind. Every job he goes to, they're renegotiating, and he gets money every single year. Every year, sometimes twice a year, he's getting more money. Every year that he's on a job, at least 2 other schools call him and say, hey, come teach over here. He's got parents calling him up from schools where he no longer works, and they call him up and say, hey, can you tutor my kid? I'll give you $100. You know what I mean? That is how you bring value to the workplace. You bring value to the workplace through competence. Okay, being good at what you do, knowing this better than anybody else, being good at it, having that social skill where people like you or they respect you and they will open doors for you. Okay, now that's that side. I'm trying to keep this short, so that's why I'm kind of running along. The third part, charity. Now, charity is a karma thing, but in Islam, we call that zakat, which means purity or purification. To purify your wealth. How do you purify wealth? You purify wealth by doing with your wealth what God tells you to do. Now, if you're a Christian, they call that tithing. If you're a Muslim, we call it zakat or sadaqah, right? God commands that out of what you're given, out of what you've been entrusted with, that you put aside a certain amount for God. So let me tell you this. It's not about money. God don't need your money. I'm pretty sure you've heard that sermon before. God owns all of this. And if you don't want to say God, karma, the universe doesn't need any of this shit. What you have is not yours. Just like they say when it comes to dating, that woman ain't yours, it's just your turn. You know what I'm saying? Take care of it. It'll never be anybody else's turn. Okay, so it's the same thing with money. Money is eternal. The value of $1 might go up and down, but that dollar ain't going nowhere. At some point, it's going to leave your pocket, and it's going to go in somebody else's pocket. At a minimum, when you die, all the money you have goes to someone else, right? Just like energy. You can't take it with you. It just transfers. So back to religion, and I'm sorry I keep bringing up religion, y'all, but I mean, there's a lot of lessons in this. God owns everything. All the money that you make, God can take it if he wants. He ain't got to let you have it. When he says, give me 3.5% or give me 10%, the one thing you better not tell him is I can't. And I'm telling you, every time this conversation comes up, people say, I can't do it. I can't put aside the money. And that's bullshit. You can. I guarantee if I add up all the money you spend in liquor stores, you spend in McDonald's, you spend in 7-Elevens, you drop on the ground, food that you waste, that you did not eat, that you threw in the trash, that was money. And there are many of you are complaining that your pastors or your imams are demanding money from you that you don't have, to the point that you're finding fault with these priests and pastors and imams, saying, well, what does he need money for? I seen that car he drives, but you just threw away $30 worth of food last week. You gave the liquor store $100 last week. You spent $150 in the last 2 weeks in fast food when you weren't really hungry. Don't tell me you don't have your 10%. The money that you were entrusted with was willed to you. Yeah, you did work for it. But if God didn't want you to have it, he could have made you lose your job. Okay? If he wanted it, he could have made you lose your wallet. He could have had you get garnished for something. You see what I'm saying? Anything that the universe wants, it can take. And if God says, give me 3.5%, or he says, give me 10%, he's allowing you to keep 96.5% of what you made. He's allowing you to keep 90% of what you made. He doesn't have to let you have it. He can mess around and make you lose your job tomorrow. Okay? And all he's asking is for 10%. Now, tithing and charity is not about money. We think about it as money, but it's not really money. When God says to purify your wealth isn't always money. Your wealth could be your car. Your wealth could be your clothing. It could be the food in your refrigerator. It could be your time. Okay? All of that belongs to him. The very first occurrence in the Bible, or in the Abrahamic faiths, the first occurrence of zakat being paid is when God told the sons of Adam to give me a portion of what you harvested from the land. It is not about the money, because like I said, God don't need your money. It's about the discipline. It's about the willingness to budget what you have and put it aside. And it does not have to be given to God. How do you give money to God? He's everywhere, right? It's not like you walk out there and be like, here, hey God, here's that 10% I owe you. Right? The pastor, he's not God. The church ain't God. If you own 10 pair of shoes, one pair belongs to God. At any point, God could command you to give those shoes away. So now you just bought some shoes from Athlete's Foot. Nice ass kicks. So you take off your shoes, throw them in the trunk, put on the new Timbs, get in your car, go to the store, you come out, there's a homeless guy sitting right there. He ain't got no shoes on. or his shoes are raggedy. Many of you are so selfish that you saw that. You know there's a pair of shoes in the trunk. You will grab your food and ride the fuck out. And if you ever wondered why, after that point, you're having financial troubles, it's because of that. So let me tell you something. It wasn't so much that you didn't give your shoes away. It was that you lacked the discipline. You lacked the loyalty, the belief, the unselfishness to put aside 10% of what you had. You can't say that you can't afford to give away 10%. You have 10 pair of shoes. You had one pair in the trunk that you're probably not going to wear again. You see what I'm saying? How can you not afford to give 3.5% to the masjid or 3.5% to a homeless guy to eat when you spent more than 3.5% at McDonald's? You ordered the fight. You didn't even like the fight. You was pissed off. Your man lost. Right? We always have extra. No matter how little you make, you always have extra. There's always wiggle room somewhere. Are there people not making ends meet? Sure there are. And I will only excuse, no, this is my opinion, okay? I'm sorry for sounding judgmental. I will only excuse a single mother for not having enough. I will never excuse a man. Because as men, we have to have wisdom. And we have to have strength. And if I'm setting the example for my family to follow, I can never, it is never acceptable for me to say we ain't got it. It is unacceptable for a man to tell his wife and his children, I don't have it. What he can say is, I don't have it right now. Let me go get it and I'll get it for you. But it's never acceptable to say I don't have it. If you say to your children, I don't have it, I know you're telling God I don't have it. If you're telling God I don't have it, that's the reason why you don't have it. Because the key to wealth is to give charity to someone who has less. That is how you spend by way of God. That's how you spend by way of the world. If you have the discipline to put aside 3.5% or 10%, then you will always have extra. Why? Because I've budgeted my life. I've planned my life to live off of 96.5% or 90% off of what I make. There will always be extra. Why? Because God commanded me to have extra. Therefore, the excuse, I don't have it, is invalid. Because had you done what God told you to do, you would always have it. And so for me, those who know me, you know what I'm talking about. I am one of them brothers who put my money where my mouth is. I will always have extra. And the reason why is because I listen to Allah. And like I said, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to follow my religion. But please follow my advice. Be charitable and kind. When you are charitable and kind and you put out to those who have less than you, it always comes back. I don't care if you don't believe in God. Be an atheist, I don't care. Okay? But the law of karma, the law of what is that called? The law of circulation says that what you put out comes back. If you don't believe in that, you're stupid. You might as well just close out my videos. Don't listen. Okay? I don't care who you attribute it to. Whether you attribute it to Jesus or Sikh, or I don't know what the Sikhs believe in. Shiva, I think that's what your God's name is. Buddha, or whatever. I don't care who you attribute it to. The fact is, if you are the type of person who can put some aside for those who have less, for those who need more than you need it, you will always have extra. if you are disciplined, you have integrity, because God says give 3.5%. He doesn't say you have to do it out in public. You don't have to do it out loud. You don't have to announce to everybody, put it on Twitter and Facebook and what's the other one? Instagram and stuff like that. Look, I gave this homeless guy $10. You don't have to do that, because God knows. He tells you give 10%. Give your 10%. Nobody's looking except God. If you do that, you'll always have extra. As long as you are that type of person, if you are the parent who is willing to sacrifice what you have for your children, you will always have extra. And this is the reason why I don't put this on the woman, because it's not the woman's place to do that. It's the man's place. The reason why a single mother struggles is because the man is not there. It's not her job to have extra money. It's the man's job. On the day of judgment, God is going to ask men. No, I'm sorry. We're going to my religion. Man will have to answer for whatever his woman, even if he broke up with her, he's going to have to answer whatever she suffered for, whatever his children suffered for. If anything, it's going to be up here. One day he will get old. He will see his children grown up. If he did not take care of them, he's going to have to die knowing I didn't do right by them. But he is going to have to answer, whether it's in this life or the next. He will answer for not taking care of his family. So it is his responsibility to make sure that family has 10%. She's trying to survive. You're just trying to live. You're trying to live, and maybe you're running away from your responsibilities, whatever. It's going to fall on your shoulders, not hers. Okay? But the bottom line is, we must, that third pillar of wealth is setting some aside and putting it out into the wind so that it comes back to us. And if you do that, I guarantee you you will always have extra. If anything, just off a little accounting formula that I just gave you, the little budgeting formula I gave you, that alone will ensure that you always have extra. Okay? So anyway, that's all I have for this video. I'll probably do another one talking about money, because there were a couple things that I wanted to touch on. We'll just come back and do it later. And definitely one on my stepdad. All right, y'all have a good day. Talk to you later.